Good morning. Couple preliminary things. I went to print my sermon off this morning, printed it off. Our printer is pretty cool. I really like our printer, actually. It does double-sided, which is great. After Bible class this morning, we finished. So I pulled my sermon out to have a quick look over, and I saw, the page 2. No, so I turned it over to page 1. I was like, oh no, our printer didn't do the other side. So, luckily I do have access to it on my phone, but I apologize because this is a way smaller screen, and so I might be squinting at it, so apologies for that. We're in the middle of a series on conflict and forgiveness. Funny thing about conflict is when we think about it, when we're dealing with it, we feel it bodily, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. We have this tension inside of us. So I found myself, every time I'm thinking about my sermon, there's this tension that's in there. So I'm still feeling that tension in there. It's just an observation or a self-reflection for myself, just considering the effect of conflict and even just thinking about conflict. I thought about what I was going to wear today. I contemplated wearing my All Blacks gear, Mark Bernardine, representing, because last night there was a bit of conflict, but I felt it less after the All Blacks won. I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're all good. Box won as well for our South African brothers and sisters as well, so that's good. So I didn't wear my All Blacks gear this morning. Instead, I decided to wear, and you will have recognized this, I think I've worn it once before to church. This is my Ukrainian shirt. Just recognizing when we talk about conflict, it can be so all over the place, but recognizing that when we talk about conflict, there are conflicts in this world that we are powerless to have an effect on. We can't change, we can't do anything about. We can only lean on our God, the God of peace, who can help guide us through it and pray that He will work to bring about His purposes and peace in that conflict as well. So just trying to put things in perspective wearing this today. Conflict, it's unavoidable. We all feel it. We all go through it. We all cause it. Maybe we don't all find resolution in it. Hopefully we do. Feel it all the time. Actually, we feel it at our house daily. I love my boys. They're great. Sometimes there's some tension and conflict, especially because we have some responsibilities around our house. Everyone has some tasks to help out, One of them is vacuuming the floor, especially now that we have a dog who sheds all the time. That's an important task. We need to vacuum kind of thing. And so Seth, one week, and I did get permission before I shared this story. I love him. But Seth, you need to vacuum. So he says, okay, he vacuums. And then I come in like 2 minutes later, and I look down, there's like hair and dirt and stuff all over the place. And I look at Seth. I'm like, Seth, did you vacuum? Yes. Seth, can't you see? And he just looked at me and smiled. Hey, stand up real quick, Seth. Just let everyone see your face. Do you notice anything he's wearing? So I looked at him. Seth took his glasses off before he vacuumed so that he could honestly say he didn't see anything there. He is a smart and cheeky kid, yeah. But the truth is, even if you don't see the dirt, the grime, the problem, the conflict, it is still there, and you can feel it. You can feel the repercussions of it, the tension of it. Today, as we're engaging this series on conflict and forgiveness, I've been tasked with a text coming out of Matthew chapter 18. And if you've been in the church for quite a while, you'll be really familiar with this text. It's Jesus giving some instruction, and he talks about how do you confront someone in sin or someone who has, offended you or hurt you. How do you go about addressing that with them? So I've been tasked with that, and so I've been reading it and studying it, and I've actually been confronted by a few things in this text this morning, and I want to share those things with you. I want to offer some I want to reframe that text for us, and then I want to offer some considerations for us when we're approaching conflict. We all deal with it. We all feel it. At work, with bosses, employees, coworkers, colleagues. At home, whether it's a spouse, whether it's children, whether it's parents, whether it's a flatmate or guests staying with you. With friends, making decisions out and about. With neighbors, shared driveways. With owners of the property of the house in front of you, who refuses to help manage the hedges and keep them trimmed back so they don't encroach on the driveway and scrape your car every time you're driving in and out of the driveway. If you've been to my house, you know my struggle there as well. Conflict is all around us. We all deal with it. Can we do anything about it? Yeah, hedge trimmers, yeah. We can do stuff about some of those problems for sure. So when we're faced with conflict, can we do something about it? Do we pick up a rifle and fire? Do we roll down our window and yell? Do we click that comment button and rant? I think you know wisdom says differently, doesn't it? We have a different approach to conflict. We can't change all conflicts around this world, obviously, but there is some conflict that we can have a positive effect on. We can be peacemakers, as we read together this morning. For the sake of ourselves and for the sake of others. I read an article, it's on the National Library of Medicine, and it's on the relationship. This is done by psychologists, and they were studying young adults and children, but the article focused on the relationship of conflict avoidance, and conflict resolution to psychological adjustment. So reading some of that, and actually the outcome of those, that study, that investigation, it showed, and this part makes sense, people with low conflicts have low distress or stress, in their life. But also showed that people who had low conflict and low avoidance resulted in lower distress compared to people who had high conflict and high avoidance. So what we understand, the less conflict you have, the less distress you have. The more conflict you have, the more distress you have. But having less conflict doesn't mean like avoiding conflict. That conflict is still there. You still feel the distress. It's addressing and resolving that conflict will reduce it. So it says, reducing conflict avoidance and increasing conflict resolution skills will reduce stress in your life. That's what the article was talking about. I think if they would have gone on and expanded the sphere of what they were looking at, not only would it reduce the distress in your life, I think it also reduces the stress in other people's lives, in your community as well. Our approach to resolving conflict, instead of avoiding it and starting it, if we instead confront it and deal with it, it will reduce distress for ourselves, for others. Physically, emotionally, spiritually as well. Let's open up our text. Matthew 18. I really want you guys to open up your Bibles this morning because I need you to see something that was a breakthrough for me. I'm going to read our passage, and then we're going to explore wider than this. So I was given from 15 all the way through to the end of the chapter. I'm not doing that. We're actually going to be starting at the beginning of the chapter, or touching at the beginning, and we're not going to go fully to the end. But let's read, 15 through 20. It says, if your brothers, and I'm reading from the Amplified Version, which might be a different translation. You guys follow along in your translation, though. If your brother sins, go and show him his fault in private. If he listens and pays attention to you, you have won back your brother. But if he does not listen, take along with you one or two others, so that every word may be confirmed by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he pays no attention to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. That was something for me I struggled with, like Jesus would tell or instruct us to treat people like Gentiles and tax collectors. I'm kind of wrestling with that concept. Continuing on in 18, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall have been bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth has been loosed in heaven. And again, I say to you that if two believers on earth agree about anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered in my name, I am there among them. I know that last one's often used to kind of talk about when like believers come together to worship. God's presence is there. I don't think that was the intention of Matthew writing Jesus' words here, but it is a truth. I mean, God's with us when we're alone. He is absolutely with us when we come together. I think he's talking about something slightly different there. How do you deal with problem people in your life? If you come into a situation where you have, conflict, disagreement, a fight with someone, what do? I'm going to follow Noah's example this morning and have a little bit of honesty and confess to you guys, but I feel like it's a norm. I trust you won't judge me, but if I have a disagreement with someone, and there's that tension, and maybe I've passive-aggressively talked to them, and there's no resolution, so then I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell my wife about it. And I'll probably, when we have some friends over for dinner, I'm going to talk to them as well. I'm like, hey, this is happening. I'm so frustrated with it. This happened, I'm going to start gathering some evidence, some examples of the wrong that was committed against me. I'm going to keep talking to people and make sure that they see things from my perspective. I'm going to start kind of painting the story, the scenario, to let them see me in the light I want to be seen, and to see my adversary in the light I want them to be seen in. And I start gathering evidence, and I'm in essence, I'm building a trap. Like I'm creating a scandal. Am I alone? Am I the only one that does that kind of thing? I think that's normal for all of us. And when I read Matthew 18, I realized how wrong that is. Now I need to change that. Beginning of Matthew 18, look at your Bible or scroll on your phone, however you want to see that text. What's happening there? In verse 1, disciples came to Jesus and they asked him a question. Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? I know we've heard this story before. This is a common interaction, and we approach this talking about how Jesus changes the structure of things. It's no longer the strong at the top. They're not the most significant. It's the weak. And even in this situation, takes a child. And the word there, it is actually a child because it's referred to as a young person, but the word there is micron, which actually it's little. So it can be talking about little in age. It can be talking about little in height. Zacchaeus was this word, micron. He was a short man. It can, in a figurative way, it can be talking about like little in dignity as well. It's little in significance even. So he takes this child and he tells them, in verse 3, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, unless you repent and become like this little one, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And here's interesting. He's going to throw a threat out there, and actually a threat of a punishment that I don't find anywhere in the law of Moses. This seems quite confronting when he says this. He says, therefore, skipping ahead, in verse 6, whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to scandalizo is the word there, to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone tied around his neck and drowned in the depth of the sea. Kind of an extreme action towards this. But I want you to pay attention to that word scandalizo, or stumble. It's for someone who, there is a little person, doesn't have to be a child, low in dignity, someone who's suffering, someone who's struggling. And if you set a trap for them that they are then stuck in, are alone in, and cannot get out from. It is better for you to tie a stone around your neck and be cast into the ocean. When I have conflict with someone, and I gather evidence against them, I get people on my side, isolate that person in our community so that they can only see them in that light. I've created a scandal. I have set a trap. I'm the one that is at fault there. If you haven't taken it seriously yet, Jesus is going to kind of emphasize the point of how serious this is. Talks about in dealing with sin and problems. If you are the problem, if you are the person doing that, if it's your hand or if your foot, cut it off. Better than your whole body going to hell. If it's your eye, pluck it out. Better than your whole body going into the fiery hell. And he says again, see that you do not despise or think less of one of these little ones. For I say to you that their angels, this is kind of interesting, their angels in heaven continually look upon the face of the Father who is in heaven. It's a reminder that we may have set this trap for this little one, but they're not alone. They're angels. They're angels that are probably hurt because of what we're doing to them. Can look upon the face of the Father. It's going to let us know again just the importance. So here's just stepping back. They asked Jesus, who is the most important in the kingdom? And Jesus says, you guys are focusing on the wrong thing. You're looking for who's at the top and not looking at who's at the bottom. Who's on the fringe of the kingdom? Who are the hurt and the helpless and the suffering in no man's land? That's who we need to be focusing on. Do you not know? Even if you have 99 sheep, if there's one missing, they're going to go out and look for and rescue. That's what Jesus wants us to focus on. Now, he doesn't just end that conversation in verse 15 and go on to a different conversation. It's a continuation. And this is what we're getting to today. This text is often used as kind of a blueprint on how to approach conflict. It's like Jesus, we see it as Jesus giving us steps to resolution, or maybe the appropriate approach to punish someone. But that is in no way what it is. Yes, there's wisdom in interrelational conflict resolution and stuff. Yes, that's there. But I don't think Jesus is telling the story or giving these instructions to tell us how to get someone out of there. I think he's giving us instructions so that we know how to help rescue someone who's stuck in sin, stuck in their problems. I'm going to give you 3 considerations. When you are dealing with conflict, whether that's actually with one person, with many people, or just within yourself, I want to offer you 3 considerations today. I'm not going to approach this text and break down steps or an approach. I think you can pull out some fundamentals when Jesus kind of gives this teaching. He talks about communication, healthy communication with that person. He talks about cooperation, working together on this thing, not isolating and separating. And he talks about the community, a larger environment that might be involved in conflict. There definitely are those principles in here, but I actually just want to give you 3 considerations that you might hold on to. And they're going to be 3 easy considerations, but there's actually a lot in those considerations. And the 3 considerations are this. I want you, in your conflict with whatever you're dealing with, whether it's something far away that you can't physically do anything about, or whether it's close, someone that you see daily, I want you to consider God, consider yourself, and consider them. I'm going to break that down a little bit. We're talking about considering God. Obviously, he should be the first one we go to when we're dealing with something that we are struggling with. It says in Philippians, be anxious in nothing, but prayer and supplication, make your requests be known to God. And we come to him first. Peace of God transforms understanding, will guard our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. We come to him first. We consider him first when we're dealing with these things. And it's so important for us. Go to God and ask, what is He calling me to in this situation? What is He asking of me in this situation? Not what do I want? God, this is what I want. Show me how to get what I want. Give me the strength to get what I want. Give me the discernment. Give me the wisdom. Give me the tools. Give me the people, whatever, to get what I want. No. We ask God, your will, not mine, be done. What do you want of me in this situation? And I can tell you, this is a generalization, and we have to approach this topic of conflict as a generalization because there's so many variations of it. But one of the primary things God will want of you in your conflict is restoration, reconciliation, healing, and help. For you, yes, but also for his little one who is stuck in this sin. If your brother, what does it say? If your brother sins, go and show him his fault in private. If he listens and pays attention to you, and here's what it is, you have won your brother. You have rescued your brother. You have protected your brother or sister. This isn't a gender thing. Next thing, when you consider God, go to God in prayer over those things, over these things. Psalm 139 says, "Search me, O God, know my heart. Test me and know my anxious ways. See if there is any wicked or hurtful way in me, and lead me in the everlasting way." Like in our strife, in our stress, in our conflict, in our disagreements, go to God and have Him assess us. Maybe my conflict isn't because of them. Maybe it's because of me. I need to lean into God to reveal that to me, to help show me a better way, an everlasting way. Maybe through your wrestling with God, you have come to a conclusion, like, yeah, maybe you do have some fault, but there is still something that you need to approach this person with. Next thing is to consider your truth and grace filter. There's a book, and I'll refer to this next week. We're in our Bible class. We're doing conflict resolution, like looking at maybe some models or some things. But there's a book by Dr. Henry Cloud and Townsend. It's called How to Have That Difficult Conversation. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. A lot of practical insights to how you would approach actually talking or communicating with a person in that. But they talk about this idea of a truth and grace filter. Ephesians 4 says, "Speak the truth in love." If you go to a person with 100% truth and no grace, you're probably going to build up a wall. You're going to close up a door. You're not going to be able to work together through those things. If you go to a person with 100% grace but no truth, that would be like an enabler for an addict, just supporting them in whatever destructive behaviors they're continuing in, offering nothing to help them confront that and get out of it. So you go to that person with a balance of truth and grace, and the book advises if you don't know how much truth, just err on grace, because then at least the conversation will continue instead of closed down kind of thing. I thought there was a bird over there, but that's. But as you're talking with God, as you're going to God first and considering this, help Him, ask Him to help you reveal, like, God, how much grace have I received to you in something like this, and help me know how much grace to give to someone else. God, help me fully see clearly the truth before I talk to them about it, so I'm not pushing my own agenda and forcing them or pressuring them to fulfill what I want, but actually what He wants. Last thing I want you to work through with God as you're considering God is, what is the outcome of that interaction? I might ask you to think of what's the best outcome, the acceptable outcome, and what will you absolutely avoid. It's a non-negotiable outcome. And your best outcome, what you're looking for with God, God, help me bring reconciliation. Help me bring clearer communication. God, help me bring healing and wholeness. That might be best outcome, what you're really going for. But even considering with God, what would be acceptable? Still a step forward, even if we're not all the way there yet. It might be, God, help. Let's make sure there's a clear understanding of what the problem is. Let's help me to have a healthy relationship with this person that I can still come alongside and we can work together on this. Negotiation, non-negotiable things. Ask God, help me not to shut a door. Help me not be malicious. Help me not to get angry and upset. Help me not to condemn him. Going to God, considering God. Next thing, considering you. We are selfish in nature. I had an interesting conversation with one of my aimers. I'm not going to say who, because it's not just aimers. This comes across with kids, and everyone will be in this situation. No one is immune to the idea of selfishness. But no, kids have it hard. I mean, they have it easy because we do everything for them. Therefore, then they will have it hard because when they leave home and they're used to having everything done for them, how would they not be conditioned to think everything revolves around them? You know, it's a transition from child to adult, learning to be less selfish. And sometimes you see it in the little things, the assumption that everyone else is going to get you the information that you need to know what's happening. So I had a fun conversation with one of my aimers. I asked about an event that was coming up that they were going to be a part of, and I asked, like, so what's the plan for this? I don't know. No one told me about it. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Actually, you mispronounced that there. It's actually pronounced, I'm not sure. I haven't called to find out yet. Subtle difference. Transitioning from the expectation that everyone's going to feed you to actually in a position where you're going to consider other people. Think of other people. We are not the center of this universe. We are not the solution to all conflict and problems. And the solution or resolution to a conflict might not be what we want. So it's important for us when we're going into this conflict to view or to consider ourselves where we're at. First thing, where are you at? There's an acronym called HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Have you heard this before? I'll say it again. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. When we are hungry, when we are angry, when we are lonely, when we are tired, that is the worst state of being to be in, to go and deal with conflict. Yeah, so before you confront something, make sure you're in the right state of being before you enter into that conversation. If you are prone to, overreacting, not listening, not having enough patience, then don't enter into that conflict yet. Pause it. Have a feed, have a sleep, reconnect, and then enter into it. So checking yourself. Not just checking your physical, but actually checking your spiritual vulnerability or culpability in the situation as well. Jesus, in his teaching, talks about when you deal with someone, do not first deal with the speck in your own eye before you deal with your brothers. Check yourself when you're dealing with conflict. Am I part of the problem? What do I need to change so I'm not adding to this? Fix yourself. Address yourself before you go to them. Because I guarantee if you are part of the problem and you go to them, they're going to show you how you're still part of the problem. And you haven't done the internal work to figure out how I move forward, how I grow, what I need to do to be in a better position to deal with this conflict, that resolution isn't going to happen quickly. So considering yourself, your own spiritual vulnerability or culpability in that situation. Another thing to consider is your relationship with that person. Am I actually respected by that person, that they're going to listen to me? Or do we have too much bad blood that I'm not the person to bring this up? It will only make it worse. Consider your relationship with that person. Maybe you need someone else to come in to help, or someone else is more appropriate to have that conversation. Next thing to check before you go into that conversation, next thing to consider is your clarity. Do you fully understand the scope of the problem? Are you able to clearly and directly communicate what the issue is here? Because if you go in with confusion, vague, you're probably not going to find the precise resolution that's necessary to that situation. So spend time. Do you understand? Are you able to communicate clearly what's going on? Last thing to consider with yourself is your boundaries. Like I said, sometimes talking about conflict is really hard because it can encompass a lot of things. As I was working on this lesson, I'm thinking, I want to offer help for people to feel, capable or able or inclined to enter into a situation to bring peace or healing. But there's some conflicts that's not safe. If your conflict with a person is abuse or violence, I don't think you have the responsibility to go to that person, especially in private. I think you need to consider what are the boundaries that you need to have in place. One of the scariest, I've shared this before, the scariest situations I've ever been in, we were swimming, this was in Ukraine, we were swimming, and someone I was swimming with, we weren't too close to the shore, but they started drowning. And so I swam over and I grabbed him. Luckily, it wasn't like he was freaking out, this guy. Luckily, it wasn't like the movies where he's climbing on top. Like once I got to him, I guess there was enough relief that he just went still. And I don't think he fainted. But he allowed me to start dragging him back to shore. But shore was a long way. And I got to the point where I was not able to keep my head above water. Am I going to drown? Am I going to die trying to help this person? With real, war raging inside of me, trying to figure out am I able to even live the rest of my life with that on my conscience kind of thing. Thank God there was someone else who was able to come and help assist, and we could work together to save this person. But in that situation, I was in danger on my own from trying to offer help. And I think some of the conflict, some of the brokenness that we're called to minister to, I would caution you, don't put yourself in that danger where you too would drown, or you too would die, but think through what are the boundaries of safety and appropriateness to deal with this conflict. Last thing to consider God, consider yourself, let's consider them. One of the things I mentioned in brief when I was going through here, where Jesus says, treat them as a Gentile and a tax collector. Like, how could Jesus do that? He says, love your enemies. Like, he ate with tax collectors. And is he, giving people permission? No. I don't think he's giving permission or even encouraging us to treat people that way. I think it's because our usual approach to conflict with a person is we treat them like Gentiles and tax collectors from the very beginning. All of a sudden, they're our enemy. We stop talking to them. We talk bad about them. We don't give them the benefit of the doubt. We withhold grace from them. We treat them from the very beginning as Gentiles and tax collectors. And Jesus says, you do not treat them that way. That is a last result. Only once you've exhausted every other opportunity to support and help that person. And that's why Peter follows up. So, okay, how many times do we have to support and help that person, forgive that person? 7 times? And Jesus said, 70 times 7 times. Don't give up. Continue to offer help. I'm sorry, we are going over on time. Let me just bring something. Real quick, last considerations of them. Consider God, consider you, consider them. Consider their dignity. They're not a tax collector or a Gentile. They're a little one trapped and stuck and hurting, and you can help. Look for their pain, their hurt. Offer a path to healing, not a trap to condemn them. Find support, whether it's from you or other people that they trust that can help them. Gather them around, 2 or 3 witnesses. If they are unresponsive to that approach, keep the doors of grace open. Do not shut them. Keep your boundaries in place to protect further harm, but don't shut down the avenue to restoration and healing. Henry Cloud, and I'll leave you with this. Henry Cloud, John Townsend, in the book, they make a phrase, they say, and I know we don't often like confrontation. Sometimes it can feel mean, can be difficult, but confrontation is actually an act of love. It does not have to be, unless we make it adversarial. It is actually a necessary part of relationship management. I don't know what conflict you have in your life. Maybe it's with your kids, maybe it's with your parents, maybe it's with coworkers, but I encourage you when you're approaching those scenarios, 3 considerations. Consider God. What is He calling me to? Considering yourself, recognizing that you aren't the center of this. It is that person who needs help. And considering them, what do they need? How can I help them? Thank you for your attention. I think I'm supposed to pray. Let's offer a prayer. God, I thank